So you've talked about how to hopefully nurture a sense of anti-structure, as you framed it, during the trip so that youth can be broken open to new experiences and to new possibilities of experiencing God and the holy in those trips. What can happen before the trip to help sort of undergird this experience? What can youth workers do in anticipation?
Yeah, I want to begin an answer to that, Jill, by kind of picturing the all too common polar opposite. Without intentionality and without preparation or anticipation for the trip, you've experienced, I've experienced Christian camps and mission trips and retreats where the experience on a day-to-day basis at the beginning is very little different than the steady state of relationship, communitas, and openness of your weekly meetings beforehand.
Yep.
Then as the week of shared time or the 3 days of shared time, the day of shared time, there comes a moment when everybody is waiting for and engages in what we somewhat dismissively call cry night, where there is this moment of anticipated deep sharing and vulnerability, and this liminal experience suddenly breaks open and there's this spike, which then drops off very quickly as soon as you go home. So the retreat too often looks like a very gently rising line of relationship openness and vulnerability, a spike of cry night or sharing night, and then a drop immediately to another slow decline. And what we really want to do, if we want enduring transformation, is if those are tent flaps, we want the flaps to come up as great as possible so that there's this steady line. Now, you'll never maintain this full liminality for months before retreat and months afterwards, but turning to the what to do before, there are ways so that before you even leave, you can create both more openness before you depart and a greater prospect of enduring liminality while you're gone. And I'd point folks to our website where we've got some workbooks on this, but to take just a couple of key examples, there is something to the old rubric, you do in the game what you do in practice. So if there are values and behaviors and anti-structural levelings and openings and behavior of respect and unconditional love that you want to culture on the trip, you need to start doing that before the trip. So to the extent that you can own your vision and mission that anticipates this quality of unconditional acceptance and love, and then draw in your student leaders and your workers to what that vision is, and try to nurture the instantiation of that in your weekly meetings rather than just waiting. If you can form some of your small groups that will be the homes of some of this deepest conversation if you can form those before the trip and give them some relational time together so they have a platform for the levels of sharing and vulnerability and co-labor on their trip itself, you're going to be advantaged. If you can put together some behavioral covenants with input from the leaders and the parents themselves that they own, not as drop down from the sky orders from you, but they've developed them themselves, then that openness, that respect, that mutuality, that task sharing is more likely to be effective on the trip. If there was in the pilgrimages a sense that nobody delegated out the hard work of maintaining a trip. The knight didn't bring his staff of 6 to clean up after them, to make the meals, to clean up the meals, to move the stuff. The beauty of the pilgrimage was everybody was pitching in and all the nuts and bolts and nasty work of living together. Well, that's typical of a retreat. And that's typical of a mission trip, but it may not be typical of your weekly meetings where you or parents set everything up and you and parents break everything down and you and parents vacuum the hall. No, if you can start anticipating the behavior on the trip by creating a culture of shared labor to own the work of the group, it's more likely to succeed on the trip. Spiritual practices that are regularly practiced before you go will have more resonance and familiarity on the trip if it's not a new thing. And I just want to close with what I think is one of the most important elements of anti-structure. Every one of these kids is in a high school where everybody knows their place. and everybody knows their status, and everybody knows their rank. And this moves across many different dynamics of rank and status that go from ethnicity to race to wealth to athletic excellence to academic excellence. But there's one commonality in almost every high school: seniors rule. That power dynamic of seniors is one of the most important power dynamics to unhorse on the trip itself. And it is best unhorsed if you can cultivate among the seniors kind of a Philippians 5-11 notion of servant leadership, kenotic, self-sacrificing leadership for them as seniors before they go, so that it's natural to them that being a senior doesn't mean I sit in the front seat of the van. Senior doesn't mean I control the music while we travel. Senior doesn't mean I eat first. Senior means I attend to the needs of the freshmen. I eat last. I sit in the back. I'm always first to clean up. That will give a rocket thruster boost to your notions of anti-structure, because if the seniors are modeling a breakdown of rank and power, it's more likely to move through your group.
Which is really the model of Jesus, right?
It's exactly
the first
the
shall be
model of
last, the
Jesus.
last shall be first,
Exactly
and
right.
the servant leadership of washing the disciples' feet, and 100 other examples we could come up with. It's really creating that presence in the youth group.
The most striking, transformative image for a freshman or sophomore is it's the senior who's washing feet. It's the senior who's last. It's the senior, and they're embracing the role as a privilege of being a senior, not a burden.
Such that when they become seniors, there's a desire to model that exact same behavior.
Do likewise.
Yeah.